Hey y'all, it's Mex, and y'all remember that casting call from a few months ago? Well, here we are! Album exchange number 3. We did one of these in the spring and last fall, and figured I'd do another, and y'all seem to really like it, so this is what we're doing. As per usual, the way this works is I send people 15 albums I want them to hear, and they each send me 15 albums back. Now, this isn't a physical exchange, it's just a digital exchange, so we each take turns reviewing our respective album, everyone reviewing in their own unique style. That way everyone's creativity gets showcased here. Think of it like a multi-person animated project, or MAP. No, don't go there. Don't go there. If you ever go down like a YouTube rabbit hole, you'll eventually come into those like multi-person animated projects where one person animated one thing and another person animated the next scene, or, you know, Shrek Retold's a great example of this. 2 disclaimers. I am not going to even try to monetize this video. So this video is only supported financially through Patreon pledges and memberships. Let me just say this. If only half of my viewers pledged $1 a video, I'd be financially set to do this as my full-time job. Guys, I wait tables for a living right now. I'd love to chase my dream job and do this. However, there are folks that need financial support now more than ever. This is my first essay following a very polarizing election. I try not to let my politics bleed into my videos too heavily, but one thing I stand with is that trans rights are not up for debate here. A lot of folks with the results of the election are in danger of having their gender-affirming care taken away or at least made less accessible. So in this video, I will be promoting individual fundraisers for transgender folks that are in dire financial need, as well as organizations that are designed to help these people that are in need, either for their own safety or just for sustenance. We've all struggled in the past. If I can be that beacon of hope to signal boost someone who needs it, I will be. So throughout the video, there will be fundraisers posted up, and the links to them will be in the description. So with that said, let's go ahead and start with the first album here, submitted by Winston Doggo, Orchestral Grooves by Alexander Lazarenko. Lo-fi music to study and relax to. First of all, girl, you've been studying like 8 years. Just take the damn test already. You're ready. Very well produced and pretty chill out album, reminiscent of Ryan Farish or Cassiopeia. Not outstanding and wouldn't seek it out, and unlike Ryan Farish, no particularly memorable individual tracks. It's good music and definitely worth an album listen, but not something I would listen to unless I'm, you know, in this kind of mood. I'd give it a light 7 out of 10. And Winston Doggo received Citadels by Galt, Aureus.
Lights in our own design. Everything becomes alive.
Hi, I'm Winston. Let's talk about what I love about the album Citadels by Galt, Aureus. I love the way this album starts off strong with the song Overture of Legion. This first track shows what the rest of the album has to offer perfectly by exhibiting the sweet romantic era classical sounds attacked by aggressive alternative rock. The pretty yet scary vibes shows what this album has to offer in this perfect 52-second instrumental track, and it only gets better. The lead singer, Sahir? Give me a second.
Yes, Sahir Galt.
Sahir Galt has a wide vocal range, singing gently for pretty songs like Our Own Versailles.
No starless nights for you and me.
But he can also switch it up and sing aggressive for songs like At Dawn.
Yeah, his glove is thrown, so I'll shave it down. Pull it home.
And I've gotta say, I'm a huge piano freak. So my absolute favorite thing about this album is the beautiful piano solos that show up in most of the songs. It's a very good album to binge. I recommend you guys check it out. Thank you so much, Mex, for sending me this album. It was very fun to listen to. The album I chose to share is Orchestral Grooves by Alexander Lazarenko. There's a cool story about this artist which you can learn more about by watching Defunctland's video called Disney Channel Theme, A History Mystery. I know, it's kind of a mouthful. It talks about how Alex made a tune almost everyone heard, but he was uncredited for years until after he passed away. It's really worth a watch. I chose this album because I feel like not many people know about his other album that Defunctland just didn't talk about. And the album that Mex sent me has a piano piece that reminded me of orchestral grooves. It's very beautiful stuff. Also, I just have a sweet spot for indie artists like Alex. I hope you enjoy as much as I do. Back to you, Mex.
Up next, we got Blitz, who sent me For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge by Van Halen. Guys, I'm sorry. I know the Yellow Vest types can listen to the same 6 Lynyrd Skynyrd songs for the rest of their lives and be happy, but this era of metal just isn't my thing. Well, I guess except for this one. And I guess this one I kind of like too. Oh, and there's that one Boston song. And, okay, fine. I guess there's some metal or metal adjacent songs from this era of music I like. But, I can't say this album was for me. Some decent tunes on here, but it sounds basically what I expected it to sound like. No real deep thoughts or anything here, and my apologies for that, but I can't say I was wowed or exactly hated it, so not for me out of 10. And Blitz received the album Thread by Red Sun Rising.
So, Red Sun Rising's album, Thread. That is probably one of the biggest surprises I've had this year. And I know it's been a year full of surprises, but it's one of the more pleasant surprises I've had this year. Up until I got selected for the album review, I had no real recollection of this band. I had no recollection of the album. And then my reaction, general reaction to the first song, Fascination, on this album was this. And I was totally hooked. The rest of the album, I wanted to hear what this band could do. And if there was anything I could really sum it up with, I would say it's kind of like somebody made a smoothie of all the great bands of like the 2000s, the late 2000s, the early 2010s. You got a little bit of Stained, a little bit of Foo Fighters, a little bit of Soundgarden, a little bit of Tool, a little bit of Three Doors Down, a little bit of Breaking Benjamin. You got a little bit of everybody just kind of mixed in there, and it sounds perfect to my ears at least. And it's something that should take precedence when a band that sounds like the good old days, but it's still pretty recent and still kind of, you know, doing their own thing, although they're not doing anything at this very moment. When their music sounds amazing and still holds up after like several years after an album release like this versus all the new stuff right now, which is kind of a mixed bag, that's really saying something. I think it was a great recommendation. I'm going to be putting a lot of this music into my driving playlist, and I really look forward to hopefully another video talking about different artists that I would like to check out. So thank you very much for picking me for the album swap. I hope you enjoy Van Halen's For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. I had another album in mind, and I was like, I don't think this one gets enough recognition. I'm going to toss that in there, see if he'll bite. But yeah, thanks a lot for the review and the opportunity to review. And you have a good one, man. Stay safe out there in the Carolinas, my guy.
Third album is from my buddy Dex, and it's the self-titled album from That Handsome Devil.
Marijuana, blah, 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 yada, yada. We'll get married or buried. We'll have a baby or kill someone. Well, I can decide what to buy, a ring or a gun.
Alright, so first thing I want to say is this first song off this album reminds me of Toxic Love from Fern Gully. Okay, another parallel you could draw here is that really bad William Shatner Seal song from Sealed with a Kiss.
Love is in the air. Love is everywhere.
Okay, straight up, Yada Yada might be the best individual song that got sent to me this entire exchange. That's an absolute bop. I love the groove and vocals in this so much. It was a lot of fun and incredibly catchy throughout. If you like bands like Clutch or Monster Magnet or, just kind of groove metal, this is definitely up your alley. This gets a 7.5 out of 10. Fundraiser break. Take a look at these fundraisers and please consider donating if you feel compelled. And Dex received Twin Fantasy by Car Seat Headrest.
Take your hands off your neck and hold on to the ghost of my body. Know that goodbye's made, that story.
How's it going? It's Dex. I was given Car Seat Headrest's Twin Fantasy for the album exchange. If you're longing for the good old days of the Strokes, Atlas Genius, and to some extent Modest Mouse, Car Seat Headrest's Twin Fantasy takes that and spins themselves into something fresh. Each song has that alternative grit, conveying either contemplating a thought or painting a picture of an experience each listener will definitely find unique as they explore the album. Bodies by far kept my ears at attention at most, as it starts out with the band building the chorus up in the first verse, then rewarding you eventually with what I can only describe as a tidal wave of sound that crashes over you, all fitting for a song about one's uncontrollable need to be with someone and fulfill carnal desires. High to Death really loves to tug at the heart, narrating at the struggle of what seems to be an addict struggling, but is also in turmoil knowing that they are a burden on their relationship. Car Seat Headrest draws this beast out artistically to 7 minutes, and it feels grating, but in a well-executed way, as the road to getting clean isn't a short duty as well. The title track Twin Fantasy, Those Boys, feels like it ties the entire album together, even declaring at the end when the song ends while letting the last 3 minutes of music and lyrics flow as if they're pulling you back out of the album back into reality. Summarizing Car Seat Headrest's Twin Fantasy, it's a solid alternative record to add to your collection, as you'll definitely need to sit back to immerse yourself over and over and over again to get a true, well-rounded experience. I listened to this twice or 3 times, and that's okay. Back to you, Mex.
Man, here's a band I forgot about. Luke sent me Shore by Fleet Foxes.
I'm gonna swim for a weekend, warm American water with different.
Man, I completely forgot that Mykonos was a late high school jam for me. Yeah, I had a hipster phase. I liked Beach House and Band of Horses and Grizzly Bear and what have you. Hey, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does a hipster buy the soundtrack? I went in fearing this was going to be boring, and right away was taken aback when a vast, breezy soundscape opened up on song 2, Sunblind. This feels to me like a more folk-leaning Scars on 45 with only a male lead. Very pretty, at times very catchy album with 2 standout tracks being Sunblind and A Long Way Past the Past. Might be my overall favorite listening experience of this exchange for just how soothing and healing this album was. Strong 7.5 out of 10. And Luke received one of my favorite rap albums of all time, one that y'all still be sleeping on, For My Mama and Anyone Who Looked Like Her by McKinley Dixon.
Fiction on front of my caddy, hurt so badly, call for Jesus. Now I'm gon' curse his daddy like goddamn, 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 hit me while mama not.
Luke sent me his review in text, so I'll be reading it off here, but he asked me to send good vibes to his dog, who's been in and out of the vet, so keep his dog in your thoughts, y'all. This album isn't for me. No, I loved it, but more that it isn't meant for me. The lyrics would then talk about struggles that I've personally not had to endure. It talks about anxiety and depression, yes, but from a BIPOC perspective. That said, I can comment on how those lyrics are employed. Within the first second of Chains So Heavy, the opening track, McKinley Dixon offered 3 different rhythms over the same beat, and my attention shifted from whatever work I was doing to just listen. Having grown up listening to Illmatic, I thought that Nas was the king of jazzy beats lyrics and clever wordplay, this is the first album that's ever made me step back and question whether there was a challenger to that throne. No rating was given, but I can presume this is a good thing. Next up we have Crow, that's Crow with an E, who sent me an Ozark Gothic by Pawns or Kings.
Well, if it hadn't been for Captain Joe, I'd be married a long time ago. Where did you go?
So I go in expecting another Staleman or something in that wheelhouse, but what do I get? Congos if it were fronted by the guy from Cave Town. A lot more folk leaning by way of, say, Mumford & Sons. Can't say I exactly liked it though. Felt a little tedious at times and just ultimately didn't catch my interest. 5.5 out of 10 for the nice stomp clap rhythm at times. Definitely has more groove than a few albums I received in this exchange, but take it or leave it. And Crow received Pink Elephant by Stand Atlantic.
Dinosaur.
Howdy hey y'all, I'm Crow, and I got Pink Elephant by Strand Atlantic in exchange for Pawns or Kings, an Ozark Gothic, a dark country album that hits me in the feels about my hometown up in the Great Smoky Mountains of eastern Tennessee, even more since the hurricane hit. Pink Elephant has a wonderful vibe of late 2010s house party music / Motorstorm and MX vs ATV All Out. I can see myself listening to this album while working on my motorcycle. My favorite song from this album has to be Jurassic Park, a real headbanger / workout song. Makes you want to get up and do something, if you catch my drift. All I gotta say is thanks for the album. I'm gonna be adding this to the work playlist / party playlist. Thank you very much.
Following that, we have Crow without an E. Yes, I literally had 2 Crows review albums, but this Crow I actually am familiar with as they're a fellow music reviewer I've watched before. Anyways, from them I received Melancholia Hymns by Arcane Roots. Okay, so I actually really like Arcane Roots. While at times they can be a little too hard for my taste, I certainly vibe with them because they're a prog metal band that, get this, isn't afraid of hooks and choruses. You know, the crescendo parts of the song that repeat and have like 4 different names depending on who you ask. Prog metal as a genre just seems always so afraid of those. Looking at you, Sky Harbor. But yeah, Melancholia Hymns was arguably the better of the 2 albums I've heard. It's more melodic and rhythmic than loud. Now that's not to say I loved this album though. It was fine, until a couple of times where it truly was great. But it definitely felt like those moments were a little too sparse throughout and you really had to kind of trek in order to get to them. Light 7 out of 10. Please check out the following fundraisers and see the description if you want to donate. And Crow received probably my favorite album from last year, Soft Hell by Closure in Moscow.
Up, Crow the Crow here, and oh hey, Closure in Moscow, a band I actually have history with. Got into them back in 2018 or so with their debut album First Temple, which I thought was a pretty nifty little poppy prog rock album full of fun tunes, nothing that really stood out all that much, but with a little more ambition, they'd really have something. And their sophomore album, Pink Lemonade, was a bit more ambitious, a lot proggier, but often to its detriment. Just an absolute mess of an album I found more annoying than anything, even if it did have a few good tunes. So basically, the ideal Closure in Moscow album would take the best of both, the tunes of the former and the ambition of the latter, and what we got on Soft Hell was, well, it takes not the best parts of both, but not the worst parts either, just parts of both. It's definitely got more of the groovy, loose feel of Pink Lemonade, but the songs are a lot tighter and more cohesive a la First Temple, and the end result is pretty solid, yeah. I do think the album starts off a bit rough, but by like Better Way or Holy Rush, it really finds its footing and the tunes start to click a lot better. Could see some of the hooks really getting stuck in my head if I gave this another half dozen spins or so, yeah. It does strike me that a lot of the music itself seems to be more a vessel for the vocals, even if the band obviously has some solid chops. The drum work in particular is tasty as hell, but the guitars are generally doing their jobs well, and providing some nifty riffs and grooves along the way. If I had any major complaint, it's that aside from the last 2 tracks, a lot of the songs here kinda run together in my mind. They have a sound and they stick to it, and well, less a failing of the band and more a statement on my own taste that it's not a sound I'm super into these days, but I'm not unhappy to hear it either. Softail's overall still pretty solid though. Don't like it as much as First Temple, but I'd still give it my wings up, even if it's not something I see myself really coming back to. Anyways, my pick was Melancholia Hymns by Arcane Roots, a nifty little gem from a prog rock band who turned a bit more towards a lusher electronic-infused sound on their sophomore album, and it's kind of just absurdly beautiful. The tunes are so good, the album just sounds so gorgeous, it's just way better than it has any right to be, and it's a real shame the band broke up not long after its release because they really had something special here.
Longtime patron Brian Lutra sent me Silence is Loud by Nia Archives. So imagine Hunter by Bjork, but slightly more upbeat and 35 minutes long. That's this album. If that's your thing, by all means, but for me, I wasn't really sure what to do with it. It was definitely a very pretty experience, very soothing, despite the drum and bass percussion present throughout. I love how Nia's vocals sort of sound ethereal or straddle the line to like dreamlike, and the song Crowded Rooms feels quite relatable. However, the problem is, I can't find much to really latch onto with this. It definitely is not a bad listening experience by any stretch, but I can definitely say it's not for me. If you enjoy drum and bass or, well, Bjorky sounding stuff, I recommend this. And I sent him back Crowded House by Crowded House.
Hello, I am Brian Lutra. Today, the album I'm sharing is Nia Archives' debut album, Silence is Loud. Bringing modern pop flair to the jungle drum breaks from the 90s, she breathes new life into the genre. Her song topics range from romance and heartbreak, anxiety from becoming successful, and her rocky relationship with her family. Previous tracks she made were more focused on being danceable hits, whereas in this album, she puts her vulnerabilities on raw display. The album next shared with me was the debut album of Crowded House, Crowded House. To get this out of the way, this is not my type of music. To me, this first sounded like generic dap rock. However, as I listened again, and again, I realized how perfectly 80s this album is. I can imagine any of these tracks playing with Michael J. Fox or Molly Ringwald on screen. The best aspect of this album, though, is the impeccable mastering. The acoustics are crisp and blend perfectly. The drums and the bass are consistently top-notch and creative, too. My fave tracks were Something So Strong and especially Can't Carry On. The track everyone knows from this album, though, is Don't Dream, It's Over. Trust me, unless you've lived under a rock, you have heard it somewhere. I normally rate this album a little lower since it isn't my style of music at all, but with how good the audio mastering is and how perfectly it matches the era it came out in, to give it any less than a 7 out of 10 would be a disservice.
What do we got next, eh? Beans? Beans. And Beans sent me, oh boy, another classic I've somehow managed to avoid for 30 years. Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. I'm gonna say something. This is of its era. A lot of my favorite bands owe a debt of gratitude to acts like Pink Floyd. And much more directly, ELO owes a debt of gratitude to Pink Floyd, as I can see a ton of direct parallels to that ELO album someone recommended to me years back present here. Now, with that said, do I like this? Well, I feel like I respect it more than I actually personally got out of it. I think the only part that struck me is that funky bass groove that picks up on Money, but other than that, I would say it's a little too meandering for my taste. I find the latter half of the 70s to be much kinder to Pink Floyd for me, but I'm going to abstain from rating this one. I don't want to diminish this album with a number rating. Just do yourself a favor, even if this isn't your thing, check this out. Whether or not you enjoy it personally does not diminish this album's legacy. And they received Burnt Letters by Taylor Henderson. Okay, Okay, I'm gonna chime in here. This is Walgreens intercom core music I can actually defend. You think I kid, except for the fact I literally discovered this as it played on the overhead speakers while I was working at Walgreens. Anyways, what does Beans think about Burnt Letters?
Burnt Letters by Taylor Henderson. Didn't think I'd be listening to pop country-esque music. Not within the realm of genres that I would usually listen to. Although it was pleasant to hear something different, and it was a nice experience. Thematically and lyrically speaking, some of the songs did hit. I will say that. The instrumentals, however, were, I don't know, maybe it's just me being nitpicky, but they did get a bit repetitive, and some of the lyrics as well. Half of the album blended in and kind of just meshed together. The album that I have sent in is The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Personally, one of my favorite albums probably ever. It may be from 1973, prog rock may not be for everyone, but I will say that it is very, very heavy hitting sometimes with some of the lyrics, and the instrumentals are just amazing. The theming as well is something that is done really well throughout the album, and also, in my opinion, is more of an experience rather than something you sit down and listen to with most albums. Honestly, that just goes with most of Pink Floyd's discography, but I'm not going to get into that for now. So, hope you enjoy.
I've got a couple more donations up on screen right now. Please see the description if you feel compelled to donate. My buddy Fico sent me Walking on a Dream by Empire of the Sun. Empire of the Sun, that one band famous for that one song that you know. You don't know more than like 4 words of that one song, but it's that song, that song that you know. This album feels like a callback to a very specific 2 or 3 year period of music. And it's not like, one of those malleable sounds that can blend forward or backward a few years and still feel like it fits in. No. This is so of its time you can almost see the hashtags on the song titles. Okay, I'm gonna play a few different songs here. Tell me if you can spot the difference. The difference? Good. The answer is I'm not the biggest fan of Empire of the Sun, but love all the other ones. Okay, that's not really fair. Tiger by My Side from this album kind of slaps, but everything else kind of feels about the same to me. Not sonically offensive or anything, just kind of safe, I guess. 2 of its time, 6.5 out of 10 on a good day. And Fico received a high school favorite of mine, Keep Telling Myself It's Alright by Ashes Divide.
Hello, I'm Ficker Fruitopia, and the album I chose for this trade was Walking on a Dream by Empire of the Sun. This album is a very fun time all around, with a few singles that really stand out, such as Walking on a Dream and We Are the People. A bouncy pop album that I know more of the lyrics than I think I should. There are a few out there songs, such as Swordfish Hot Kiss Night, that really change up the listening experience, but overall, it's a fun listen. The album I received was Keep Telling Myself It's Alright by Ashes Divide. The album had a very down-low vibe. I found the songs seemed to blend together, and really nothing broke the mold or the vibe of the album. The closing song, Sword, was definitely my favorite, and much longer than I thought it was. Overall, I'm going to go with a 6.5 out of 10. Not my fave, but definitely not a bad listen either. I really did enjoy it, and thank you very much.
Up next, we got Yoltzen, who sent me From Hell with Love by Beast in Black. So the name Beast in Black, and the album name From Hell with Love. Can you guess what this album sounds like? Go ahead, I'll wait. Got your guesses in? All right, well, here we go. Nah, I'm fucking pulling your leg. This is what it actually sounds like.
Fight until you die by the pain of the one you hate. End of reason, end of the game. Die by the pain.
Literally copy paste the style of Ghost or Brother Fire Tribe or Iron Maiden to some extent, with a little more bloopity bloopity processing on the front end, and bam, you got Beast in Black. While I can definitely point out the heavy inspiration from other acts, I'd say they at least have halfway decent songwriting chops. But if we're going in this lane of power metal, I'll just stick with Protest the Hero, or, I don't know, Ghost. 5.5 out of 10, but essentially just call it another shrug. Here's some more fundraisers for people in need, and if you have the means, please feel free to donate by clicking the link in the description. And Yoltzen received the self-titled deluxe album from Scars on 45.
Alright, let me start off by saying that I'm a very picky consumer of music. Very specific about what I listen to, especially more than once. Mech sent me Scars on 45's self-titled deluxe album, and it's just wow. This melodic alt-rock album, as upbeat and happy as it sounds, you never really notice how sad the album actually is until you really dig into the lyrics, which I took a second listen just to do so. Burn the House Down and Don't Say became immediate repeat offenders on all of my replay lists for weeks, and even still are to today. The melodies are catchy and easy to sing along with, and the harmonies are just on another planet. All backed by very well done instrumentals and mixed nearly to perfection, this album gets a 9 out of 10 from me, hands down. And I can't lie, won't lie. This is one of the best things that I've ever listened to while sad drinking. And I listen to a lot of music when I drink. So if that means anything to you. Overall, fantastic slapper of an album, and I really appreciate you sending it my way. It's a completely different direction than the music I normally listen to, so it's a nice differ in my playlists from day to day. The album that I sent back, however, was Beast in Black's 2019 album, From Hell with Love, and it scratches my brain in just a specific way, and I really hope that it does yours.
Following that, we have Birdie returning. Can we go 2 for 2 on bangers, Birdie? Karma Dharma by Abuse Ken. Nope. Okay, I'm on this Abuse Ken album. Abuse Ken album. This is not for me. I can already tell you. You know that pom pom way pom pom way pom pom. That reminds me of that. It's too conflicted and Vocaloid for its own good. If you like that kind of stuff, I'd recommend it, but for me, it's a 4.5 out of 10. And I sent to Birdie Fair to Midland's final album, Arrows and Anchors. Fun fact, I actually want to get a tattoo of that symbol. So what do you think, Birdie?
For my album, I chose to recommend Karma Dharma from Abuse Ken, a furry artist that I followed for some time now. It's delightfully weird in a way I hadn't listened to anywhere before. As for my album, I was given Arrows and Anchors by Fair to Midland. I really enjoyed the simplicity of the album. It's a rock that plays it refreshingly straight, with a few voice and guitar tracks along the way, and I really appreciate it. It also reminds me of the rock I listened to while I was blooming my music tastes, specifically with songs that were heavily used in AMVs like Wolf in Sheep's Clothing by Set It Off. My favorite track is Rikki Tikki Tavi. For many reasons I could go way more in depth, but the more superficial reasons are that the lyrics resonate with me and a little violence in music is always welcome. In short, it's a simple album, but don't conflate simpleness with bad quality, because it really is a great album to listen to without thinking too hard about it.
Lumi sent me a revisit as I actually listened to this in 2022, but happy I get to talk about this. Hawaii Part 2 by Miracle Musical.
Explain me, my brain has claimed its glory over me. I've a good heart, albeit yes. Condemn him to the infirm.
So, spoiler alert, a Tally Hall song will be in my top 50 this year. Stay tuned for that, by the way. So, I didn't realize at first that Tally Hall and Miracle Musical were basically the same group. Anyways, this is an album that's heavily story and lore based, and I'm not going to say much in that regard to save you the spoilers. It's experimental, mixing almost classical tunes, ballroom-style orchestra with synth pop. Admittedly, I think Labyrinth, while a good song, and maybe the song with the title I cannot read, feel a little out of place here. Overall, though, an adventure of a listen. However, if you want avant-garde weirdness that works in this context, check out The Mind Electric, which is easily my favorite track here. 7.5 out of 10. I don't love it cover to cover, but I will certainly remember it. And Lumi received This Is the Warning by Dead Letter Circus.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Coving into the Pantera because I had zero will to make Minecraft content. So today I want to review This Is the Warning by Dead Letter Circus, and why am I reviewing this? Album exchange time. So, the timer is 2 minutes, let's go. To be honest, coming into this album, I kinda didn't know anything about Dead Letter Circus, so it was kind of a pleasant surprise for me, hearing a sound that was kind of familiar to me, but that I didn't really get into past listening to this. Though it is important to clarify that I'm not a music critic like Mr. Melon, and I reviewed this while literally playing Minecraft and spending hundreds of hours playing fucking The Binding of Isaac. But whatever. Anyways, I think that whilst I'm used to more heavy stuff, let's riffs and stuff like that, it's good. At least for my ears. The instrumentals made my entire house burn out for how fired they were, but the vocals did seem a little bit whiny. I think it's the right word. And you may ask, but Lumi, what do you listen to? Yeah, we don't talk about that. I didn't really feel any emotion while listening to it, but I kinda don't feel anything while listening to music in general, except for the absolute feeling of happiness I feel to listening to Hawaii Part 2, but that's another thing. I leave that to Eyebolt. Anyways, yeah, if I had to give this a proper rating, I will probably give this a 7 out of 10, but remember, it's my opinion, and I will leave it in the description below. So, I think this is all for me. I will probably go back to not finish Shimlock and, bye-bye.
Scotia sent me a love letter right from my childhood. Sunburn by Fuel.
She drinks champagne dream, strawberries for eyes, pink linen, white paper.
Back in '97, my parents had a Ford Tempo and a Ford Taurus. I don't remember which I was in at this time, but I remember riding through downtown Canton, looking over the dashboard from the back seat. You had, those neon green, everything was neon green on the dash, and it was all, very primitive and of its time. And I remember this song came on the radio. I loved this song. I asked my mom who did it, and she said it was Fuel. Now, for the longest time, I couldn't find this song because I didn't know the name of the song until I got my own computer and access to the internet, and thereby LimeWire when I was a teenager. And now Shimmer is one of my top 5 favorite songs of all time, and one of my karaoke standards. There's a few good cuts on here too. The title track is amazing, Bittersweet is underrated, but otherwise, it's kind of forgettable apart from the singles admittedly. Kind of bog standard 90s post-grunge, but this album is forever goated based on Shimmer alone. 6.5 out of 10 otherwise. And Scotia received Megalithic Symphony by AWOLNation.
Sunburn was a formative album for me. I was born in the 90s, but I didn't feel like I knew what that meant until I heard this band. Many people know the singles, but it has so many bangers. This album is one hell of a debut. I haven't listened to the EP that came before, but I went into this one familiar with most of the tracks. Listening through this time showed me a few things. 1. The drums were fun and off-kilter enough to be an interesting drive to multiple songs. 2. The supportive nature of most of the songs. All I need, jump on my shoulders, and not your fault, to name a few. It's rare to find a band of this energy slinging affirmations as their headlines. And 3. The buzz. This band's sound is so electric. The guitars are buzzing, Aaron Bruno's vocals bounce off the walls, and you can just picture the crowd hidden right behind the instrumentals cheering. It has all the energy and sound of a live album. Guilty Filthy Soul is hands down my favorite track here. I do have one criticism, and it's that the energy starts to stretch out and rest on the prior laurels near the end of the album. Sure, Nights of Shame ends in a good crescendo, but I don't remember the drives on those last four. The energy was a bit more experimental there. Footing slipped, as it were, and they were trying to find something new in the rebalance. 9 out of 10 album for me.
Down to our last couple of entries here. First off, we got Peer Deer, who sent me All Nerve by the Breeders. Alright, I never promised I was going to like every album I was sent, and yeah, this is unfortunately one of them. Not that it doesn't have its place. Everyone's allowed to have their own taste. Hell, my dad apparently even used to listen to this band and possibly even listen to this album, but this just felt really slapdash, low tempo, and just couldn't work its way into an interesting or sonically cohesive experience. I appreciate the live drums, but there wasn't really much else to like here. Utterly grooveless, and sounds like it's constantly falling apart musically. Closest parallels I can draw are like Juliana Hatfield if she couldn't write a chorus, or an even closer one would be Autolux. But at least Autolux had Here Comes Everybody and a couple other decent songs that were likely mislabeled on LimeWire back in the mid-2000s. Fun fact, that's actually how I discovered Autolux, because somehow someone running the Windows Media Player 8 radio tuner confused them for 9 Inch Nails. Like I said, memorably bad makes for a better listening experience than just being boring. And this was dreadfully the latter. 3 out of 10. Sorry. And Peer Deer received In Moderation by 8 Stop 7.
I went with All Nerve because I absolutely love that kind of sound personally, and it's from a respectable band with a lot of legacy in my opinion. Despite being a release from the late 2010s, it encapsulates that slightly melancholy 90s alternative sound really well. Also, I was just curious to hear his opinions on it, since he's reviewed similar albums in other videos. I'm happy that you suggested me an album from a similar genre, but unfortunately that doesn't automatically mean that I'll cherish it similarly. That said, In Moderation is what I'd consider an album with potential and hints of greatness, with audible inspirations here and there. I did like a lot of the instrumental work on it, but I couldn't get warm with the delivery of the lyrics most of the time, though not necessarily because of the theme. My personal favorites were the songs Good Enough, Esteem, which in my opinion could have made for a great single, since it sounds the most polished and cohesive out of all songs, and the album opener Satisfied, which did give me Soundgarden vibes for some reason, but I feel like as a result it also gave me a wrong first impression. The rest of the album is perfectly average, with bits and pieces that I enjoyed or that I considered a mismatch, but that's mostly personal preference. I do appreciate that they were experimenting a little bit with their sound to figure out what suits them best. The official album Closer Forget is great in concept, for instance, but it felt like an early draft that could have used some more work to get a 4 out of 5 for me, and the fade out felt like an eternity. Regression and Wider is what I ranked the weakest for the record. I feel like this album suffered a little bit from a huge transitional shakeup in the alt-rock landscape at the time, and nobody knew what the future sound would be. I'd still rate it a decent 7.5, since it was also a major debut for the band before they got fucked over by the label from what I read. So I want to be fair here.
And finally, we're closing things out with my friend Scout, who sent me Haven by Marianas Trench. Okay, so full disclosure, Marianas Trench took up 2 of my top 5 spots in 2014. I love this band. And while I can't say this was as good for me as, say, Ever After was. That's just a goated album. I'd say this album struck me more than their last two did. Josh Ramsey is one of Canada's best kept secrets, and Canada gets all those bragging rights. Damn, Canada, what else you keeping from us? Hell yeah, I can get on board with this. Anyways, if you like things like Tally Hall, or dare I say, AJR, you'd probably be on board with Mariana's Trench. I liken their albums to rock operas, rich with dramatic swell and tension, with just enough quiet moments to frame the bombastic payoffs and Ramsey's impeccable range. And, oh wait, you like hooks? Good, because this album has a lot of those too. While I can't say the individual tracks stand out to me as much as the album stands as a whole, this is likely their most approachable album in a decade. Like, you want a jumping on point? Start here, then follow up with Ever After or Astoria. A great listening experience I'd be happy to revisit again. 8.5 out of 10. Trading a Canadian artist for another Canadian artist to my friend from Canada, the final album I sent was The Weights on the Wheels by the Russian Futurists. And with all that, once again, I encourage everyone watching to donate to any of those fundraisers. Hopefully I can use this small platform I have here to be a beacon of hope for somebody. Additionally, if you feel compelled, you can head on over to my Patreon or join as a channel member here. Top tier actually gets you a guaranteed slot in these album exchanges. But like I said, even though this video is not going to be able to be monetized, as much as I would love to make this my full-time job, please show some love to those folks who need it more than I do. Anyways, I know it's trite and overdone, but liking and sharing this video gives it a much better chance to get pushed to the algorithm, and subscribing always helps. Hell, I'm just short of 6,000 writing this, and that's insane, y'all. Anyways, see y'all next time, and take it weasel.